Carbon dioxide is in fact the greatest asset in the world. We have put 1 trillion tons of CO2, which is still up there. Countries or individuals that emit CO2 can turn the emissions into valuable products that serve society. I think the most important thing that we all need to be doing, and I hope everybody gets involved in, is moving the narrative to 2018. And what I mean with that is, when James Hansen testified about climate change in 1988, the very stark warning was we need to reduce emissions to avoid catastrophic global warming. And we didn't. And so that's 30 years ago. And now when I go to COP21 or COP23, where I was recently, the narrative is now we're going to reduce emissions by X% by 2025, 2030. That's basically 30 years too late for that narrative. What we need to do now is realize that we have increased emissions ever since '88, and we now need to start looking at taking CO2 out of the sky and changing the narrative, changing the story, basically. CO2 has been labeled as a villain. CO2 is bad, it causes global warming. And to say that the foundation of all life on Earth is bad is dangerous. If we change the story to what really is true, is that carbon dioxide is in fact the greatest asset in the world. We have put 1 trillion tons of CO2, which is still up there, much more, but there's 1 trillion tons still in the sky. And inside those trillion tons is 250 billion tons of pure carbon. And that has a value if we bring it back down and create food, fiber, and fuel out of it. Some people actually need reminding that CO2 is the basis of all fossil fuels. And CO2 created all fossil fuels and all food and all fiber, with few exceptions. And so that means that we can turn it into those products that mankind needs. This means that we can turn CO2 into products that have a high value, that can be sold at a profit, which in turn means that companies or countries or individuals that emit CO2 can turn the emissions into valuable products that serve society. So Skymining is really about changing the narrative as well, and reminding people that CO2 is an asset, it's life-giving, it's the basis of everything we depend upon to live. But we live in a world where everything is created with a positive carbon flow. So in other words, we're sending carbon from the earth to the sky. It simply doesn't need to be that way. So once you start looking at it deeply, you see that you can make more money, more profit, in a way that regenerates the earth.